Kick-Ass Facts, pew 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 pew! Part 3 in our series of Women Are So Dainty. Women were thought to have more delicate digestive systems, leading to dietary restrictions and beliefs that they could not handle the same food as men. It was commonly believed that women's bodies were more sensitive to certain foods, particularly meats and rich foods, which were thought to overtax their delicate systems. Doctors and nutritionists recommended bland diets, contributing to the stereotype that women were weaker and needed special care in all aspects of life, even diet. This idea also reinforced the notion that women should be more refined and modest in their eating habits, further differentiating them from men. Women were warned that if they pursued too much education, it would negatively affect their physical appearance, making them unattractive and unhealthy. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, many argued that intellectual work would lead to physical and emotional deterioration in women, making them less appealing as wives and mothers. This was often framed as a warning about overwork leading to stress or physical strain, but it was primarily a way to discourage women from entering academic or professional spheres. The implication was that women had to choose between beauty and brains, with society valuing the former over the latter. It was believed that women should experience pain during childbirth because it was natural and even morally necessary, and that pain relief could be harmful during the process. During the 19th century, the use of anesthesia for childbirth, such as chloroform or ether, was controversial. Some doctors and religious leaders argued that women were meant to suffer during childbirth as divine punishment based on the biblical account of Eve, and that the pain relief would be unnatural. This myth contributed to the reluctance to provide women with adequate medical care during labor, and in some cases, the refusal of pain relief. In the 20th century, it was believed that women were too emotionally fragile to handle high-pressure jobs like law, business, or medicine. As women began to enter the workforce in greater numbers during the 20th century, many employers and even doctors claimed that women couldn't cope with the stresses of demanding jobs. This stereotype, often rooted in traditional gender roles, argued that women were naturally more suited to nurturing or supportive roles rather than leadership positions. This myth further suggested that stress would harm their reproductive health, reinforcing the idea that the primary function was to bear children. Research has indicated that female physicians may provide more comprehensive care, taking time to listen to their patients and discuss their concerns in detail. This is one of my favorites: wandering womb. The notion of the wandering womb can be traced back to Hippocratic texts. The ancient Greeks believed that the uterus was a living entity that could be moved around the body. The idea stemmed from observations that some women exhibited various physical and psychological symptoms that seemed to change over time, leading to the belief that the uterus could relocate itself. It was thought that when the uterus went on a walkabout, it could cause a range of symptoms, including anxiety, irritability, and even physical ailments like shortness of breath and loss of appetite. The wandering womb theory contributed to the societal control of women, and it reinforced the idea that women were irrational or unstable and needed to be kept under supervision. They used to put bad smells here, so your womb would go... Pregnant women were often portrayed as overly emotional or irrational due to hormonal changes. The idea that pregnancy made women incapable of rational thought was used to limit their participation in decision-making or public life. While hormonal changes during pregnancy can cause mood fluctuations, this myth exaggerated the effects, often infantilizing women or suggesting that they were unfit to work or hold responsibility while pregnant. It contributed to societal perceptions that women's emotions made them unreliable in high-stakes situations. In the mid-20th century, it was believed by some that tampons could damage a woman's virginity or cause sexual arousal. As tampons became more widely available, they were initially met with suspicion by conservative groups. Still to this day, some believe that using tampons could break the hymen, falsely equating this with the loss of virginity, which was a significant cultural concern in certain societies. Fun fact, I lost my virginity to a banana seed in 1984. Others argued that inserting a tampon was an inappropriate act that might lead to sexual arousal or immoral behavior. These myths were used to maintain strict control over women's bodies, especially regarding sexuality. Riding horses, especially astride instead of side saddle, was thought to damage women's reproductive organs or compromise their modesty. In the 18th and 19th centuries, women were often expected to ride side saddle, a position deemed more ladylike and less likely to affect their reproductive organs. Riding astride, which is more physically natural, was considered indecent and potentially harmful to a woman's fertility. The myth was another way to control women's physical activity and reinforce ideas about modesty and purity, limiting their mobility and independence.